The laughter stung worse than any combat wound. Sergeant Kira Williams stood rigid at Fort Carson's main checkpoint, her German Shepherd Maverick perfectly still at her side. The morning sun caught the single bead of sweat trailing from her temple, not from the Colorado heat, but from the acid rising in her throat. A burning sensation. A familiar wound reopening. "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake," the visiting lieutenant drawled, his smile sharp as a combat knife. "I requested a real K9 handler for today's VIP escort. Someone with, experience." He didn't look at her K9 certification patch, didn't acknowledge her 3 deployment insignias. His eyes slid over her dark skin and landed somewhere above her head, addressing the white corporal behind her instead. The dismissal, swift, practiced, devastating, cut through her professional armor like shrapnel. "Is there someone else available? We've got a general arriving in 40 minutes. The checkpoint booth fell silent. 2 MPs exchanged glances. The corporal, Jackson, shifted uncomfortably. Kira's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on Maverick's lead, the only movement betraying the hurricane building inside her chest. Her knuckles whitened. Her pulse thundered. 5 years in K9 operations, 237 successful explosive detections in training, 17 in actual combat zones, 1 Bronze Star. And still, that look, that dismissal, that wound. Kira's voice emerged, level as a sniper's aim. "Lieutenant, my dog and I are the primary security team assigned to your detail today. I've handled presidential security. I can assure you we're more than capable." The lieutenant's smile never faltered. "No offense intended, but I'd prefer someone with a proven track record. We all want what's best for the general's safety, right?" The words hung between them like smoke after detonation. Each syllable, another fragment embedding itself in her professional pride. Each vowel, another reminder that no matter the uniform, no matter the accomplishments, some doors remained barricaded against her very existence. Maverick sensed the shift in her body chemistry, the flood of adrenaline, the microscopic tensing of muscles, and pressed his warm flank against her leg. A silent communion, a wordless reminder of their unbreakable bond. Where humans had failed her, Maverick never had. The morning air grew thick with unspoken judgment, with assumptions calcified into certainties, with prejudice masquerading as protocol. Senior Master Sergeant Reynolds emerged from the checkpoint office, his weathered face unreadable as he assessed the situation. 22 years of service had taught him to read the currents of conflict before they erupted into storms. He'd witnessed this scene before. Different actors, same script. "Lieutenant Donovan," he said, his voice carrying the gravitas of his rank. "Is there a problem with the security detail?" Donovan straightened. "Just ensuring we have the best personnel for the general's arrival, Sergeant Major, requesting confirmation on handler assignments." Reynolds' eyes flicked to Kira's impassive face, then back to Donovan. "Sergeant Williams is our lead handler, top of her class at K9 school, multiple combat deployments. If you have specific concerns about her qualifications, I'd be happy to review them with the base commander." The veiled threat hung in the air like the scent before a storm. Electricity without sound. Donovan's expression tightened. Territorial alpha meeting established dominance. "That won't be necessary. I'm simply exercising due diligence for a 3-star security." "Of course," Reynolds replied, the words polite, but his eyes steel. "Then I suggest we proceed with the established protocol. Sergeant Williams, please brief the lieutenant on the security arrangements." Kira nodded, her spine military straight. "Yes, Sergeant Major." Before she could continue, Donovan interjected, "Perhaps a demonstration first? Just to satisfy standard procedure. I'd like to observe the handler and K9 in action before finalizing the detail." The request, thinly veiled skepticism wrapped in procedural language, brought another wave of silence crashing over the checkpoint. Every ear tuned to the exchange, every eye watching the collision of wills. Reynolds glanced at Kira, a silent question. She answered with a barely perceptible nod. Challenge accepted. 7 minutes, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Give me 7 minutes on the training course. After that, you can make your decision. 7 minutes to prove a lifetime of excellence. 7 minutes to validate her existence." Donovan checked his watch ostentatiously. Fine, but the general arrives in 35 minutes, and I won't compromise security over sensitivity training. The words were meant to wound, to diminish, to place her achievement within the context of tokenism rather than merit. Kira absorbed the blow without flinching. She'd weathered worse storms than this man's doubt. 7 minutes, she repeated. After that, nobody will be laughing. Have you ever felt your entire worth compressed into a single moment of judgment? Ever had your soul weighed by eyes that decided your value before you spoke a single word? 7 minutes later, nobody in that checkpoint was smiling. Nobody dared even breathe too loud. The base commander had been crystal clear that morning. This VIP visit is critical. 0 mistakes. The K9 teams need to be flawless. General Marcus Hayes, 3-star decorated combat veteran and potential future Joint Chiefs candidate, was arriving to evaluate Fort Carson's readiness protocols. His inspection would determine millions in funding allocations. His impression would shape careers. His judgment would echo through personnel files for years to come. And Lieutenant James Donovan, newly transferred from Fort Benning to Coordinate Security, had just publicly rejected the lead K9 handler assigned to the detail. The handler with the highest detection rates on base. The handler who had swept for explosives during 2 presidential visits. The handler who happened to be a black woman. "Sir," the corporal finally spoke up, his voice cracking slightly under the weight of the moment. "Sergeant Williams is actually our top handler. She's certified in explosives, narcotics, and personal protection. Maverick's detection stats are the highest on base." Donovan's expression flickered, doubt momentarily cracking his certainty. "That's so?" His eyes finally settled on Kira directly. "Well, no offense, Sergeant, but this isn't a training exercise. The General's motorcade has received 2 security threats this month. I need someone who won't freeze under pressure." The words hung in the air like smoke after an IED. Toxic. Choking. Deadly. Kira's expression remained carved from stone, but her mind flashed to last night, reviewing the General's security protocol until 0200. Memorizing every vehicle in his convoy, studying the base perimeter maps until her eyes burned and blurred. How Maverick sensed her tension and rested his head on her lap, his dark eyes understanding what nobody else could see. How she'd traced her finger over her father's Arlington coordinates tattooed on her wrist, drawing strength from his legacy. "Lieutenant," she said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk, "perhaps you'd care to observe a demonstration before making your final decision." Donovan looked at his watch. "We have 30 minutes until the general arrives." "I only need 10, Kira replied, each word precisely weighted. Reynolds stepped forward, his presence imposing despite his lack of height. "Lieutenant, I'd strongly recommend taking Sergeant Williams up on her offer." His tone carried the weight of his 22 years of service. "We have a training area just behind the checkpoint." Donovan's jaw tightened, but he nodded sharply. 10 minutes. Impress me." As they walked toward the training area, Kira felt the eyes of everyone at the checkpoint following her. Some curious, some concerned, some silently rooting for her. The weight of those expectations pressed against her shoulders like a full combat load. Another burden, another test, another demand to be not just good, but exceptional. Not just qualified, but extraordinary. 3 years ago, she'd been the only woman in her K9 handler certification course, the only black woman. The whispers had followed her everywhere. Diversity quota. Won't last a month. Dogs don't respect weakness. Each word a small cut. Each sneer a bruise forming beneath her uniform. Each doubt a weight added to her already heavy pack. Now, as the lead handler at Fort Carson, those whispers had mostly faded. Mostly. But some doors remained closed. Some minds remained locked. Some respect remained withheld. Some wounds refused to heal completely. The training area appeared before them, a simple arrangement of vehicles, concrete barriers, and obstacle courses used to maintain K9 team proficiency. Reynolds spoke briefly with the training NCO, who nodded and quickly placed 3 standard explosive training aids in undisclosed locations. A blind test. Maximum difficulty. No room for error. Kira drew a slow breath, feeling the familiar pre-mission calm settling over her. The noise faded. The doubts receded. The lieutenant's skepticism became irrelevant. There was only the task, only the mission, only the sacred communion between handler and dog that transcended human prejudice. She knelt beside Maverick, their eyes meeting in perfect understanding. In that gaze, everything that mattered. Trust absolute, partnership complete, a bond forged in training and tempered in combat, a connection that made words unnecessary. "Find it," she whispered, the command barely audible. Maverick's transformation was immediate, from disciplined companion to focused detection machine. His nose lifted, sampling the air. His muscles tensed beneath his sleek coat. His ears pricked forward, alert to the slightest sound. The silence before the search began felt eternal, holy. A sacred pause between breath and action, between doubt and vindication, between judgment and justice. If you were in her boots right now, would you retreat from the challenge or march straight toward it? The training area behind the checkpoint was a simple arrangement of vehicles, concrete barriers, and 3 standard explosive training aids hidden by the base's K9 training unit. Nobody but the trainers knew their exact locations, a blind test that would challenge even the most experienced handler dog team. 10 minutes to find all 3 devices, Reynolds announced, starting his timer. Lieutenant Donovan leaned against a concrete barrier, arms crossed. "And if she misses one? She won't," Reynolds replied simply. Kira removed Maverick's service vest, replacing it with his search harness, the signal that transformed him from guardian to hunter. Her fingers brushed against the worn patch sewn into the harness's side. Till Valhalla, Marcus. A name nobody asked about, a story she never shared, a wound she never displayed. A brother lost in Fallujah to an IED that a less skilled K9 team had missed. She knelt beside Maverick, her lips close to his ear. "Find it," she whispered, the command activating his training instantly. The dog moved with fluid precision, nose working the air currents. Kira watched his body language, the subtle shifts in his ears, the tension in his shoulders, the rhythm of his breathing. Their communication was silent, intimate, forged through thousands of hours together. A language beyond words, a connection beyond human judgment. But the morning wind had picked up, swirling unpredictably between the vehicles. Scent particles scattered chaotically. A difficult search even in ideal conditions, now complicated by nature itself. Another obstacle, another test, another demand for perfection when others would be forgiven for mere competence. Kira felt Donovan's eyes boring into her back, expectant, skeptical, waiting for failure. The pressure condensed in her chest like a physical weight, like armor too heavy to bear, like expectations impossible to meet. The first device took 3 minutes to locate, hidden inside the wheel well of an MRAP vehicle. Maverick's alert was textbook perfect. A sit, a stare, motionless focus. Kira praised him quietly, her voice a soft caress of sound. Her hand briefly touched his head, the contact brief but meaningful. Acknowledgement of excellence, reward for perfection. The second device proved more challenging. Maverick worked methodically through the area, but the wind kept shifting, throwing false scents and confusing the trail. 5 minutes passed, then 7. The weight of time pressed down on Kira's shoulders, each second another grain of sand in the hourglass of judgment. "Time's getting tight, Sergeant," Donovan called out, checking his watch ostentatiously. "General's motorcade is 20 minutes out." Kira didn't respond. Couldn't afford to break her concentration. Couldn't allow the doubt to creep in. Couldn't permit his skepticism to infect her focus. Instead, she closed her eyes for 3 seconds, a ritual she'd developed in Afghanistan when the stakes were life and death. In that darkness, a memory surfaced. Her father's voice, low and steady. "Baby girl, this world's gonna give you 100 reasons why you can't. Your job is to give it one undeniable reason why you can." The silence of that memory enveloped her, protected her, centered her. She opened her eyes, recalibrated, adjusted her approach. "Reset," she commanded Maverick, directing him to a different starting position, accounting for the wind patterns. The dog responded instantly, trusting her completely. Where humans doubted, Maverick believed. Where people questioned, he followed. Within 90 seconds, he alerted on the second device, cleverly concealed inside a trash receptacle. 8 minutes had passed. One device remained unfound. Donovan's smirk was already forming, already claiming victory in this battle of wills, already confirming his prejudices in the narrative he was constructing. The silence before the final search felt eternal, like the pause before a sniper's trigger pull, like the breath between heartbeats, like the moment between life and death on a dusty road in Kandahar. Have you ever felt the weight of everything you've worked for balanced on the edge of a single moment? Maverick's behavior suddenly changed, subtle enough that only Kira would notice. His ears shifted forward, his nostrils flared wider, his tail, normally loose during searches, straightened slightly. Microscopic signals that spoke volumes to the woman who had spent thousands of hours learning his language. He'd caught something, but instead of following the scent directly, he seemed confused, circling back repeatedly to the same area without alerting. Kira studied the environment, her mind racing through possibilities. The wind had created an eddy between two barriers, causing the scent to pool in one location while the actual source was elsewhere. A scent anomaly, a false trail, a final test of their partnership. 9 minutes on Reynolds's timer, 60 seconds remaining, the countdown to judgment. "Running out of time, Sergeant," Donovan called out, his voice laced with satisfaction. A predator sensing weakness. A skeptic finding confirmation. "Guess we'll need to rethink that security assignment." Several MPs had gathered to watch. Reynolds stood stone-faced, his eyes darting between his timer and Kira. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence grew teeth and claws, tearing at her composure. Kira made a decision. Instead of following standard protocol, she directed Maverick against the wind, away from where he kept returning. A counterintuitive move that either demonstrated brilliant understanding of scent dynamics or desperate guesswork. "What is she doing?" someone whispered, the words barely audible. Donovan scoffed. "Failing." The words sliced through the air like shrapnel, aimed to wound, designed to diminish. Kira blocked them all out. Her world narrowed to just her and Maverick, their breathing synchronized, their focus absolute. Her hand signal directed him to a concrete Jersey barrier 20 feet away, a command based not on doubt, but on absolute trust in his abilities and her understanding of the invisible currents carrying molecules of scent. "Seek," she commanded, her voice barely audible. A whisper meant only for Maverick's sensitive ears. Maverick moved with renewed purpose, tracking along the barrier's base. When he reached the far end, he stopped abruptly, sat, stared intently at a drainage hole at the barrier's base, his body rigid with certainty, his focus laser-sharp. The alert was unmistakable, perfect, undeniable. 9 minutes, 42 seconds, 18 seconds under the deadline. Reynolds approached, verified the location with the training NCO, and nodded. All 3 devices located correctly. The silence that followed was profound, sacred, the kind that falls when certainty shatters. When assumptions collapse under the weight of undeniable competence. When prejudice meets its match in excellence. Kira stood motionless, her face betraying nothing of the triumph surging through her veins. She clipped Maverick's lead back on, rewarded him with his training toy, and turned to face the lieutenant. Her expression remained neutral, professional, revealing nothing of the fire raging behind her eyes or the vindication flooding her chest. "Will that be sufficient, sir? Or would you prefer another demonstration?" The patch on her uniform caught the sunlight, K9 Operations, with 3 service hash marks beneath it. But it was the small tattoo visible at her wrist as she handled Maverick's lead that drew curious glances. Coordinates, followed by the letters NFQ. Nobody asked what they meant. Nobody needed to. The air hummed with unspoken understanding. Donovan cleared his throat, shifted his weight, adjusted his uniform unnecessarily. That was acceptable. His words clipped, reluctant. "The General's motorcade will be arriving in 15 minutes. I expect you and your dog to be in position at the main gate." "Yes, sir," Kira replied, her voice neutral, professional, revealing nothing. As she walked back toward the checkpoint, Reynolds fell in beside her. "NFQ," he said quietly, nodding toward her wrist. "No fucking question." The corner of Kira's mouth twitched. the barest suggestion of a smile. My father's favorite saying whenever anyone doubted me. Your father was a wise man. He was a military police canine handler for 20 years, first black handler at Fort Bragg in his time. The words were simple, but carried the weight of inherited struggle, of battles fought across generations, of doors forced open so that others might walk through. Reynolds nodded slowly, understanding blooming across his weathered face. The coordinates? Where he's buried, Arlington, Section 60. For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of legacy hung between them, of sacrifice, of excellence demanded and delivered, of wounds carried and transformed into strength. He'd be proud today, Reynolds finally said. Kira's only response was to straighten her shoulders, adjust Maverick's lead, and quicken her pace toward the checkpoint, toward the next challenge, toward the moment when excellence would once again be demanded and once again delivered. The silence before action settled over her once more. The sacred pause, the ritual moment between preparation and performance, between doubt and vindication, between judgment and justice. The general's motorcade appeared on the horizon exactly on schedule. 3 black Suburbans with military escort vehicles front and back. Standard protocol dictated a full security sweep before the main vehicle could approach the gate. Standard procedure demanded perfection. Standard operations allowed no margin for error. Lieutenant Donovan stood rigid near the checkpoint, occasionally glancing at Kira and Maverick positioned 10 yards ahead. His earlier confidence had calcified into something brittle, too committed to his initial judgment to retreat, yet visibly uncertain. A man caught between pride and reality, between prejudice and proof. Williams approached the lead vehicle first. Standard sweep pattern, he ordered, loud enough for the entire checkpoint to hear. A final public test, a last attempt to maintain control of a narrative rapidly unraveling. Kira acknowledged with a crisp, "Yes, sir," and moved forward with Maverick as the motorcade stopped at the designated inspection point. The dog's posture was perfect, alert but controlled, professional in every movement, like handler, like K9, a partnership forged in training and tempered in combat. The base fell silent. Even the Colorado wind seemed to pause, holding its breath. The mountain air hung still and heavy with expectation, with judgment, with the weight of what was to come. This was the moment that mattered, not the training exercise, not the found devices. This, the real-world protection of a 3-star general with 37 years of service and 2 weeks of specific threats against him. The ultimate test, the final judgment. The moment when excellence could not be faked or diminished or denied. Kira knelt beside Maverick for 3 seconds. Their ritual, their moment of perfect communion. Her hand rested lightly on his back, feeling his steady breathing. In that touch, absolute trust, complete partnership, unshakable faith. The silence of that moment stretched between them like a sacred thread, like a lifeline in a storm, like the pause before a sniper's perfect shot. "Find it," she whispered, the command activating decades of canine evolution and months of intensive training. Maverick moved with methodical precision, circling the lead vehicle exactly as trained, nose working the wheel wells, the undercarriage, the seams of doors. Kira watched his every muscle twitch, every ear movement, reading his body language like a familiar text. A language more honest than human words. A communication beyond prejudice or doubt. The first vehicle cleared, then the second. As they approached the general's Suburban in the middle position, something changed in Maverick's demeanor. Subtle, a slight stiffening of his shoulders, a minutely different cadence to his breathing. Changes invisible to anyone but Kira. Signals that spoke volumes in their silent language. He detected something. Donovan noticed Kira's altered stance. "Problem, Sergeant?" he called out, tension sharpening his voice. Fear and doubt battling in his tone. "Continuing the sweep, sir," she replied evenly, giving nothing away, betraying none of the alarm bells ringing in her mind, maintaining the professionalism that had carried her through worse storms than this man's doubt. Maverick circled the general's vehicle methodically, his nose working every seam, every panel. When he reached the rear wheel on the driver's side, he stopped, sat, stared fixedly at the wheel well, his body rigid with certainty, his focus absolute. The alert was unmistakable, perfect, undeniable. Kira raised her hand, the signal freezing all activity at the checkpoint. Possible detection, sir. Request EOD team and evacuation protocol Alpha. The reaction was immediate. Security personnel moved with practiced efficiency. The general remained in his vehicle as the checkpoint transformed into a tightly choreographed security operation. Training overrode confusion. Protocol supplanted panic. Professionalism triumphed over fear. Lieutenant Donovan's face drained of color. Are you certain? Maverick doesn't give false positives, sir. Kira's voice was steady, professional, betraying none of the adrenaline flooding her system, none of the vindication coursing through her veins. His detection accuracy is 99.7%. The EOD team arrived within 2 minutes. Their inspection was thorough, methodical, and conclusive. Magnetic IED attached to the wheel well, the EOD team leader confirmed, his voice tight with professional tension. Sophisticated timer would have activated approximately half a mile inside the base, likely during the command center briefing. The revelation sent ice through the veins of everyone present. Reality replacing speculation. Danger confirming competence. Life and death validating excellence beyond any doubt. General Hayes finally emerged from his vehicle once the device was secured. Tall, silver-haired, with the unmistakable bearing of a lifetime of command. He walked directly to where Kira stood with Maverick, his eyes sharp with assessment and something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or remembrance. "Sergeant," he said, his voice resonant with decades of authority. "I understand I owe you and your partner here a debt of gratitude." "Just doing our job, sir," Kira replied, standing at perfect attention. The words simple, accurate, understated in the face of what might have happened, what was prevented. The general's eyes, sharp, evaluating, moved from her face to her unit patches, then to Maverick, then back to her. "Your name?" "Sergeant Kira Williams, sir." "K9 Operations." Williams. He tested the name. Recognition flickered across his face like lightning across a stormy sky. Any relation to Master Sergeant James Williams? K9 handler at Bragg about 20 years back? The question landed like a physical blow. Kira's perfect composure wavered for just an instant. The professional mask slipped, revealing the daughter behind the soldier, the legacy behind the excellence, the wound behind the strength. "My father, sir." The general nodded slowly. "He saved my life in Kandahar 2002. IED sweep before a command meeting. A pause, heavy with memory, with history coming full circle. One of the finest handlers I ever saw. Said his daughter was following in his footsteps." His eyes held hers. He was right. The silence that followed was different from all the others, not tense, not doubtful, but reverent. A moment when past and present, legacy and achievement merged into something profound, something beyond words or rank or regulation. Lieutenant Donovan stood frozen, witnessing it all. His narrative shattered, his judgment exposed, his certainty transformed to ash. 3 hours later, after the security lockdown, after the investigation began, after the general had been safely escorted to the command center, Kira sat alone in the K9 unit's break room. Maverick dozed at her feet, exhausted from the day's intensity. His body curled against her boots, his breathing deep and even. The faithful companion who never doubted, the partner who never judged. The door opened. Lieutenant Donovan entered, his posture markedly different from that morning. Gone was the casual arrogance. Vanished was the entitled certainty. In their place, a man confronting his own failings, a soldier reckoning with error, an officer facing his own wounded pride. He stood awkwardly for a moment before speaking. "Sergeant Williams, I owe you an apology." Kira looked up, her expression neutral, waiting, offering no easy absolution, no comfortable escape, no path of retreat from the confrontation with his own prejudice. "I made assumptions that were," he searched for words, "unfounded and unprofessional. Your performance today was exemplary. I was wrong." She could have made it easy for him, could have offered the gracious, "no problem," or "forget about it," that would release him from his discomfort, could have smoothed over the wound his doubt had inflicted, could have pretended the cut hadn't drawn blood. She didn't. "Thank you for recognizing that, sir," she said simply, the words acknowledging his admission without diminishing its necessity. accepting the apology without erasing the offense. Donovan nodded, understanding the response for what it was. Acknowledgement without absolution. Respect earned, not given. A door opened, not by his generosity, but by her excellence. The general has requested you personally for his security detail during his entire visit, he added. He specifically mentioned your father, said the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Something flickered across Kira's face, a brief softening, a crack in the professional armor revealing the daughter who still missed her father's voice, the woman who still carried his wisdom like a shield against the world's judgment. Thank you for telling me that, sir. After Donovan left, Reynolds appeared in the doorway, words spreading across the base, he said without preamble. About what happened, about what you and Maverick did, about the lives you saved. Kira nodded, stroking Maverick's head as he slept, her fingers tracing the familiar pattern of his fur, finding comfort in the simplicity of that connection, that uncomplicated trust. You know what this means? Reynolds continued. That K-9 training position you applied for last month? The one they said needed more experienced leadership? A small, fierce smile formed on Kira's lips. Suddenly I'm experienced enough? Suddenly you're the only one they want. Reynolds leaned against the doorframe. Funny how nearly saving a general's life changes perspectives. Kira looked down at the sleeping Maverick, at the patch on his vest, at her own wrist with its tattooed coordinates. It shouldn't take that, she said quietly, the words heavy with the weight of all those who came before, all those who would come after, all those still fighting battles she knew too well. No, Reynolds agreed. It shouldn't. But they both knew the truth. In a world built on hierarchies and assumptions, respect often came only after irrefutable demonstration, after moments when excellence became undeniable, after performance so perfect it shattered preconception, after achievement so profound it rendered prejudice absurd. Kira Williams had provided that moment today, not just for herself, but for every handler who would come after her, every woman, every person of color, everyone ever doubted before they had the chance to prove themselves. She gently woke Maverick, clipped on his lead, and stood. Ready for evening patrol? She asked him, receiving an eager tail wag in response. The simplicity of that joy, the purity of that partnership, the beauty of that trust. As they walked through the K-9 unit, handlers who had previously kept their distance now nodded respectfully. Some offered quiet congratulations, others simply watched with new eyes, with recalibrated judgment, with respect hard-earned and finally given. At the exit, Kira paused, closed her eyes for 3 seconds, her ritual moment of silence before action. In that darkness, she felt her father's presence, his pride, his legacy continued, his battles honored, his sacrifices vindicated. She thought of the general's words, of the connection revealed, of the circle completed, of wounds transformed to wisdom, of pain alchemized into power. She opened her eyes and moved forward with Maverick at her side, perfect in step, perfect in purpose, united in the silence that preceded action, bonded in the pause before performance, connected in the ritual moment between doubt and vindication. Respect doesn't see color, doesn't see gender, doesn't acknowledge difference or division or distinction. Respect sees excellence, and excellence, once demonstrated, cannot be denied, cannot be diminished, cannot be forgotten, cannot be unseen. Kira Williams had shown them excellence today, had made it impossible to look away, had rendered doubt obsolete, had transformed judgment into justice. She stepped into the evening sunlight, Maverick alert at her side, ready for whatever challenge came next, ready to prove excellence again, and again, and again. For as long as the world required proof, for as long as doors remained closed, for as long as judgment preceded performance. The silence of her determination filled the space between heartbeats, between breaths, between doubts and vindications yet to come. Have you ever stood in the silence after proving everyone wrong? Ever felt the weight of expectation transform into the lightness of achievement? Ever known the sacred pause between being judged and being vindicated? That silence has a power all its own, a voice that speaks when words fail, a presence that remains when doubters depart. That silence is where excellence lives, where truth resides, where justice begins. In that silence, Kira Williams found her strength, her purpose, her power, and in that silence, she continues forward, one step at a time, one proof at a time, one excellence at a time, until the world no longer requires proof, until judgment no longer precedes performance, until the silence before the shot becomes unnecessary, until excellence is expected rather than doubted, until respect becomes her right rather than her burden,